No problem. Hey, everyone. We're live, and this is just us bullshitting. This is a nothing cast. But how are you all doing? You know, if you're not aware, Raltz has just released what, your 10th book?
10th, yeah.
10th. And that in itself, considering how rare it is for anyone to get 3 books done, in itself is pretty impressive.
We're sitting at over 1.3 million words now printed.
1.3 million words printed.
Yeah.
And just for reference, before we get to what you've written now, how the hell did this happen?
Oh, it was it was the beginning of COVID, and I was looking for something to do. Steam was down. Oh God, Steam's down. None of my games were working. And I logged into Reddit, and I tasked a friend of mine, what's a good thing to read on Reddit? They pointed me at the subreddit /HFY, which is humanity fuck yeah. And I got the concept that humans are space orcs.
Go inside.
And I play a lot of riffs and stuff. So I was really down with this. Humanity is the greatest. And I was reading, I thought, you know what? I've got an old copy of Pathak Eats an Ice Cream Cone around. I should post that. I posted it. And then the next thing I saw there was a writing challenge. I was like, you know what? I'm working. I'm not, my job was pretty much sitting around, and because I had night shift, and I wrote another story, Born Whole. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna start writing, because the Thought Gets an Ice Cream Cone had like huge amounts of comments on it within like 2 or 3 hours, and Born Whole had huge amounts of comments. And I started writing, and it was like everybody loved what I was writing, and we're like, write more. And I'm like, because at the time, there wasn't. It didn't seem. I don't know if it's true or not, but it didn't seem like as many people were posting on the writing boards, because we were into COVID. We're in the first. I think it was the summer, or it was right when the lockdown started. And the lockdowns were hitting everybody. There were suicide hotlines going around. People were like, God, I have nothing to do. It's day after day. I'm staring at the wall. And I started writing this. And I told my wife, you know what? I'm going to write this stuff. I'm just going to write stream of consciousness. And I'm just going to write. And I'll give them something to write. I'll give them something to read. I was like, and I'd put notes in there like, if anything else, talk to a friend on the phone or on Skype or something. Don't sit in your apartment alone. And I just kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. And it started ballooning into this huge thing. We're talking within a couple hours, I'd have hundreds of upvotes, tens of thousands of views. It would hit the front page of Reddit, and people were commenting by chapter 100. People were commenting about how they got up in the morning they look forward to the next day just so they could read the next chapter. And at the time, I was putting out three or four chapters a day. I was putting out between 6,000 and 12,000 words a day. And my job just had to be sitting around anyway. I was on night shift, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do a pay. Everybody's like, where's your Patreon and PayPal? And I'm like, I don't have any. And they're like, so you're doing this like right in the Reddit submit box? And I even posted proof that I did it right in the Reddit submit box. I still do this day. And people were startled because it was months before. The only reason I got a Patreon and a PayPal is because it was the 4th time somebody had messaged me that, hey, somebody's got a fake Patreon up in your name, or hey, somebody put a fake PayPal link up in your name. So I had to make a Patreon, and I didn't expect anything. I expected, maybe $50. I was like, I told my wife, yeah, hey, if I'm lucky, I'll get gas for the truck so I can go to work. And maybe if the PayPal, I'll get enough to, buy some beer and Skittles. And it just kept ballooning, and I did stuff like add suicide hotlines at the bottom, and I was telling everybody to take care of themselves. And I just kept writing. And then there's the lightning incident. I got hit by lightning.
Wait. The lightning is recent?
The lightning is 2021.
No.
Shit, I thought it was a long time ago. I know you had the first one a long time ago, but the second one happened recent?
The second one happened while I was writing First Contact / Behold Humanity. And the lightning bolt actually hit to either side of my house and went through the windows, through the living room, through my bedroom, which is downstairs, and the door opens up into the living room, and out the other window. It blew out my monitor. It blew out my video card. It smeared the TV. It took out the PlayStation, and and all I can see is like bright white light, and I can taste the color blue. There's no other way to describe it. And my vision's still clearing. My head's ringing, and my daughter yells at the top of her lungs, "Mom, Jack, I hit my lightning!" Like I did it on purpose, you know. And luckily, I had a Mac, so I was able to start writing with the Mac, and I put my computer in for repair. And after that, it flowed even faster. I mean, I started getting fugue states. At one point, they went in and checked my blood levels. They gave me a CAT scan, and my VA tech was like, this is borderline obsession, but you've been happier than I've ever seen you. So I'm going to let it roll because at least you're not shooting at the mailman. And the whole time I'm like, we can make it through COVID. If nothing else, let me know. I'll drop you an email. I'll give you a shout out. Whatever you need. I have a lot of people copy it now on writing sites, but I copied something from the military, which is the Friday safety briefing. And every Friday after the last posting of the story, I put up the safety briefing, which is don't drink and drive, don't beat your significant other, the mailman, your pets, or your kids, don't manufacture, sell, do, transport, or store illegal drugs. Don't trust Lucky the Leprechaun. He's out to steal your kidneys. Midgets don't grant wishes. Uh, don't run from the cops. They hate that. get get the candy before you get in the van. It's the Friday safety briefing. And a lot of times during COVID isolation, I'd put the suicide hotline numbers, as well as various lines you could call during COVID to just talk to somebody. And I'd be like, look, smile at yourself in the mirror, give yourself a hug in the mirror, close your eyes and hug a pillow. Just hang on to your mental health. You can make it through this. And people just went crazy over it. And then people were like, hey, this thing is up over 500 chapters and it's getting really hard to read. By that time, I'd also done a backup on Royal Road at the advice of the mods of the subreddit and other people like my wife. And everybody was like, hey, can you do this up in books? And I was like, yeah, let me see if I can find an artist. And I was like, okay, I'll get an artist and I'll do this up in books. And so first thing I did was I asked the people on Reddit, hey, what are the stories that are complete, the story arcs that are absolutely complete? And I'll do them in short books. And that's how you got Fizzy Brew and Fear, Call Me D, We Are the Atlantic Talent of the Atomic Hooves. Those were all completed story arcs at the time I published those books. And then I was like, okay, I want a really nice cover. Because I went in and I looked at the covers for sci-fi, and I hate to denigrate other authors, but oh my God, so many covers are trash.
Yeah, that is one of the worst things an author can do is have crappy covers, because when you're scanning the Amazon pages looking for something to read, the one you're going to skip is the one that looks like it was a boxed AI image or something that came out of stock art and then has like Arial font as text. Yeah.
And I was looking through and I saw this guy had an image. He mainly did Factoria fan art, but he had an image that really struck me. And I was like, hey, what's your prices? Let's talk. And he's like, you want me to do the cover for every single book of your series? You're not going to get popular and drop me on like the fourth book for a different artist. I'm like, no, we do this. You're in it the whole way. He's like, okay. And he's the one that produces my covers. And I put out the books and everybody, the sales went through the roof. And I've hit the top 100 a couple times. Currently, the 10th book is in the top 100. And, you get tons of reviews. The worst review I've seen is it's a power fantasy. And, basically it's a postmodernist bitching. And I don't care. 1-star review, who cares? I'm not that worried. It obviously comes across as sour grapes. And I fell into this thing ass backwards. I really did. I've had people comment that, half the time I won't post on my Patreon for like an entire month. And when I post about my life, it's like, hey, this great thing happened. This great thing happened. Patreon had when I went to the emergency room and they had me hooked up. basically with a tube up my nose and all that stuff on my chest. And I was like, hey, next chapter might be a little late. And somebody commented that, it's been almost 3 years. Actually, I think it's been 3 years. And, I'm never like, hey, can you guys give me some money so I can go on vacation? Hey, this, hey, that. I'm always like, hey, you guys supporting me on Patreon enough that I saved up the money and replaced my daughter's furnace in the middle of the winter. I want to thank you guys a lot for all the support. Instead of, hey, I went out and bought a Tesla. Can you help me make my payments? Because this was an accident. I wrote all of this it started out to give people something to read for. And I said, it's a serial. I'm going to post. I was posting 6 or 7 days a week. Now I post 1 chapter a day, 5 days a week, at least 2,000 words. Back then, I was doing 3 to 4 chapters a day, 7 days a week. And anywhere from, I've overran the Reddit character limit several times. I mean, just long chapters. And everybody loves it because I gave a guarantee early on. They were like, you're not going to do like a lot of other authors and get us to like a character and then kill them because you can. And I'm like, no, George Martin is a hack and I wouldn't do that to you guys. And I've kept that promise. Every promise I have made to my readers, I've kept.
Good man. So, and then just basically you uploaded it to Amazon, and then how quickly did it turn into a bestseller?
For the first month or two, it wasn't really selling. Yeah, it was actually no, that's not true. I'm going to take that back. For the first month, nothing really moved because I forgot to tell anybody I'd done it. Yeah, I forgot to tell anybody. I realized it when I put out another book. I was like, wait a minute, all this is live. Have I told anybody about this? And I asked on Reddit, I was like, hey, did I tell you guys that I'm putting up the books so you can read them, including the top 10 story arcs you guys wanted? And overnight, I'm in the top 100. As a matter of fact, at one time I had 7 books in the top 100 for sci-fi and space opera. And ever since then, the books sell consistently. I mean, even the first book sells consistently. People still buy the first book consistently. I think the first book is the only one that's ever had any returns. I've had 2 returns. And I had one hardback return because the guy opened it up and the pages fell out. And so that wasn't even my fault. But they sell consistently. But I mean, I put one out and I'll drop this. The first week it's out, it'll sit in the top 100 for space opera, military sci-fi, science fiction. The only ones that beat me are like the Star Wars books that, because good luck beating that juggernaut.
Yeah.
I actually had a little bit of giggling. I bumped, I think it was, I can't remember, the Mad Archangel Terra Soul, book 5, bumped Dune out of the number 2 slot the week the movie came out.
That's great.
I was like, wow. And of course, a lot of people, I run the profit thin on it. I mean, 138K words and that many pages. Amazon takes a huge chunk. And
Yeah.
I've had to talk to Amazon several times because the stuff is available for free online, and I do KENP so that people can read it for free on their Kindle.
Yeah.
And I got them to understand that those are years old posts that nothing can be done about, and people are buying these books because they don't want to page through the chapters. I'm not uploading one 2,000 word chapter. I'm uploading 135,000 words is what I shoot for, so that they could sit there and read like 40 or in between 30 and 50 chapters. And thankfully, once I get a live technician and not the AI, they always unlock the book and are like, okay, we get it. Because I'm like, I'm not popular because of Reddit. I'm not popular with Reddit. I'm popular with some people on one subreddit. And that's who's driving all your customer base. So they pretty much were like, "Oh, okay," and then they unlock it. But
Well, it's good they actually understood.
Mm-hmm.
well, you've got to work your way up to an actual living person.
That was kind of like us
Yep.
with Ridiculum.
Yeah, been through that.
They kept giving us shit, and then they saw it and they're like, "Oh, we're really sorry about this."
Yeah,
Um, okay, so that's the story of how you got there.
right.
What the hell is Behold Humanity? What do you tell the layperson?
Um, it's a story of an interstellar war between that starts out between ancient ancient war machines and two-star empires, and eventually ends up in a four-way brawl for possession of the entire universe. And during which you've got space battles, ground combat, politics, and adventure.
It's got all the elements of a good space opera, but at the same time, there's kind of an insanity to it.
Oh yeah, it's I've got over 50 years worth of pop culture in my head, and I took things out as far as I could and still make it, halfway decent. Um, I definitely do a lot of tongue in cheek stuff because military LOL, and there's jokes in it because space opera used to make you smile. Star Trek had very subtle, and not so subtle comedy moments. A lot of people don't realize that Star Trek, the original series, had some amazing comedy on it.
Oh yeah.
Kirk and Spock meet this beautiful woman, and the woman says, "I've never met a Vulcan before." And Spock looks dead at her and goes, "And I have never met a living work of art, madam." And Kirk looks at him like, "What the fuck?" I mean, it's moments like that.
The one I always liked that was clearly comedy, and if no one understood this, I don't know what to tell you.
Mhm.
But fight me, Jimmy, fight me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finnegan.
I mean, and so I try to keep humor in it. The big thing I did, and the big thing I promised my readers, and I feel like I've managed to do, was I keep current politics out of it. I mean, 8,000 years from now, they're not even going to know our names. And I botched up, every time you read a book in science fiction, they know Earth's history down to who created watermelon gummies, And I said, nope, I'm going to glass Earth so that nobody knows, and the history is going to be rebuilt from the internet. Which is why, if you look in history books, Abraham Lincoln was a vampire hunter. He was elected on getting rid of the vampires out of the French vampires out of the actually no, the Iron Fence vampires out of the southern states.
Nice.
I mean, that's bona fide history because that's what everybody agrees it is. And I don't want, because every time, oh God, it was terrible. Well, it still is. Every time you turn around, it's politics this and politics that, and you have to be political. And no, I don't. I don't have to be political. And it's seeped into writing to the point where so many books I picked up, I put back down because it's not the guy having an adventure. It's the author lecturing me. And I don't need a lecture. I got a wife. Thanks. I mean, so if I had to say it's an old school space opera where there's the hard science doesn't matter because FTL drive go burr. All seen through aliens' eyes. Very few chapters are through humans' eyes. So we're seen as complete lunatics. And somebody once commented, "Oh, all you see is the military." Well, yeah, it's a war. On MASH, they didn't flash over to the greasers at the dine-in. No.
You see more than the military, though. I mean, you get to see teenage girls that decided to tour the universe as robot squids.
Yes. But, everybody's like, oh, you don't get a slice of life of what it's like for the common person in the Confederacy. No, because that's boring.
Yeah, I don't want to read about that.
You want to read about the teenage girl who's a squid and going to watch some quasars, or, you want to read about, Barnyard's attempted espionage where he accidentally ended up on a vacation for rich weirdos.
You know what? I'm actually going to push back on the you only see military, because in the first book alone, you get to see a teenage girl who's had her brain transferred or her consciousness transferred into a giant robot squid so that she can tour the universe and feed off of gas giants.
Mhm.
You get an entire planet or an entire solar system that's been turned into a real-time, real-life Warhammer 40K battle
Mhm.
with clones and old technology. You've got a planet that's essentially EverQuest, where people have
Yeah.
their consciousnesses put into engineered bodies of elves and orcs and
Mhm.
dwarves. I mean, you see plenty of what the regular life is for humans in this setting.
I guess so.
You get
Yeah.
Pathak.
Yeah, you get the talk.
Yeah, he takes a tour of regular humanity.
Yeah.
And then he
And it-
totally on purpose and not all accidentally saved Christmas. It's real. It happened, and the trial will fight you over it.
Yes.
and an ice cream addiction.
Yes.
I mean, it's tough to say what it's about because that's where I run into troubles. They're like, well, what's it about in 3 sentences or less? 4-way interstellar war in the Cygnus Orion arm. Because my brain locks up.
You know, I would put it something along the lines of it's everything you loved about classic space operas, filtered through the insanity of a Gen Xer who's seen too much.
I could live with that. I mean, I could live with that. I mean,
it is just, there is a sarcasm to it that's laughing with the audience, not at them.
yeah. Yes, that was the other thing. I don't want to laugh at the audience because that's no fun. I hate it. I hate it when these, people that write or do movies, I know they're laughing at me. Almost like you're stupid for liking this, so I'm going to destroy it in front of you. And it's like, why do you think I should give you my money? Why should I give you my time? And you know how they say write what you want to read?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I've been doing. But like I said, I still get fugue states. I had one today. I wrote almost 3,000 words and just I blinked and then opened my eyes and I'm starring it. It's already been submitted. And it's like, oh, wow, I wrote this. I should probably read it.
Well, another thing I would say, in a sense, it's an anti-Star Trek, because in Star Trek, everything's well ordered, everything's centrally controlled. Humanity's above things like inane, immature humor and petty grudges. Where your setting has got technology even further than Star Trek, and it's humanity.
And the average person is just as drunk and stupid as ever.
Yeah.
I made to use some memes, and people really appreciate the memes, because yeah, there's memes thrown in there, and people love them because once you get the hang of describing a meme, your audience can relate to it really easily. And let's face it, memes have been around since the cave days,
Yeah.
and so I used them, and everybody loves them, and yeah. I mean, I have a real hard time describing it because it's like if Berserker Starship Trooper, the Berserker series Starship Troopers and Larry Niven's work all got drunk and had a baby.
I would agree with that.
I would agree. Totally.
And I mean, I'm not even going to deny it. I rolled the grates in an alley and took everything out of their pockets and probably stole their shoes. I mean, for God's sake, a ring, a ring like Halo or, the Niven series is actually called a Niven ring.
Oh, I like that. I mean, you're not the only one to do that either.
Oh, really?
Other people have made mentions of like a Niven rings or a Niven Halo or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his concept, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting is how many things he came up with that nobody knows about. Oh, well, not further than that. Body banks and organ collectors.
Yeah.
Yep.
That whole theme, that cyberpunk theme that kept coming up, of recycled organs, Niven came up with it first. It was a story called Organ Legger.
Solidly Space Marines. I mean, solidly Space Marines with the Sauron Supermen. A lot of people don't know that. I stole the C+ cannon from Sauberhagen. I mean, I even stole the effect it has on people that are near where it's fired. I mean, people have been like, "Hey, you stole that from Cyberhawk," and I'm like, "You're goddamn right, I did." And I
Well,
guess I was told that too many authors deny it. Where I'm like, "Yeah, so."
Well, that's because like there's this weird stigma about, it's like, oh, you're stealing. It's like, no, I'm not stealing. I'm referencing. And if you own up to it, it's fine.
Yeah.
one of the things I'll credit William Gibson with that I think the others, well, no, a few of the other cyberpunks did this as well. And I think it was one of the best things he did and that group did was when Gibson came up with the word cyberspace and netrunner and all these different words, which others have tried to copyright. He
Yeah.
flat out said, "I'm not copywriting any of it. It's all open source.
Yep.
Go ahead."
Yep. And there's been so many Games Workshop has tried.
Really?
Yeah.
Dicks.
Games Workshop tried to copyright Space Marine.
Really?
Games Workshop tried to copyright the idea of martial orders.
No.
And they were told you can't. Well, Space Marine's been around since the 50s, and they were told you can't copyright a real life thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt this interview just for 1 second. Read this comment from Dominic Powell.
I didn't get a chance to watch your live stream on Lay Bracket, but what inspired you to cover her?
Because she's hot. I mean, holy shit. Is she bangable or what?
I haven't. I'd have to go look at an image. I'm still
Sorry.
trying to calm down. It's okay. For all my in-person outgoing, and I really am in-person, I'm just as outgoing. I mean, shit, I'll stand there and talk to you while I'm pumping gas. I'll talk to you at the grocery store. I like human interaction. But when it comes to self-promotion, I lock up. I really do.
That's
it's
really damn normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very common.
I think one of the most painful things for writers is to do the back of the book description.
Well, I'm just pretty much letting everybody know where we're at in the story. I mean,
Well, yeah, you've got a built-in audience, so it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But,
my audience.
What you're describing is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Even I, find writing press releases, and I've been doing it for years. Writing my own are nerve-wracking.
You got a degree for writing this shit.
Kind of. No, but yeah, I wish journalism still operated that way. But
yeah, but still.
And I worked as a publicist for a time at a record label. But no, self-promotion's a real pain in the ass. I think, generally speaking, decent people aren't braggarts who want to talk themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know plenty of writers that I've met who are good guys, but my God, I want to hit them. It's like, I don't really want to hear any more about how clever and brilliant and interesting you are.
See, I'll brag about the time I wiped out behind the speedboat and refused to let go, and eventually got my feet up under me so I could barefoot water ski. I'll brag about that.
See, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other author I can think of off the top of my head who I could say could talk about themselves and it didn't come off as bragging and was actually interesting was Ray Bradbury. And I went to a book signing he was at. Guy was fucking hilarious. And his stories about himself were really, really good. Like you said,
Undead commented that the majority of my stories are like, okay, so I'm like a complete dumbass, and this is what I did. And she said that comes across a lot differently. And then me and my friends ended up in the jail cell.
That's kind of just Gen X, isn't it? Yeah. We did this because,
That is the majority of the good stories of Gen X is like, here's how we were dumbasses that one time.
Jackass.
Yeah.
And here's how I teleported into the jail cell.
Exactly.
Yep, I got to the third shot out of Ada tequila, and then I woke up in the alley without my shoes.
At least you weren't covered in vomit.
Yes.
Oh, we got a question from the audience about alts.
Just out of curiosity, Ralt, what class are you in D&D, or are you just the DM in the gaming stream of the show?
I am the DM. I have DM'd since 1983. I've been a player very rarely and only for Shadowrun and once in a while Rifts. Very, very rarely.
Yeah, I was usually the DM, so I'm actually enjoying this, getting to be a player. Let's
But
see.
yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, and see what's worse is, I look at, I try to look at my peers. I don't think I'm bad mouthing my fellow writers and my peers, because I'm not any better. I feel like I'm not any better than them. A lot of them had the same road to hoe I did, but their releases always come off as unwarranted arrogance. And I get it. You're supposed to, read the best romance book put out in the last 20 years. Really? Or read the best sci-fi book put out in the last 20 years. I read it, and it's one of those 10 minutes into the future ones that's my dick's got. If I draw an alien head on my dick, it's more science fiction. And read a thoughtful, introspective superhero book. I read it, and all the guy does is whine through the whole book, and he uses his powers like twice. And it's like, that's not an introspective look. That's teenage angst for 240 pages. I got kids, thanks.
And that's why I tell everyone, you don't really need to bother with Catcher in the Rye.
I read that in junior high, and it just slipped right out of my memory. Catcher in the Rye.
Exactly.
I dodged that one. I was not forced to read that.
You want to hear a pretentious boomer in his adolescence bitch and moan and talk about how he's above it all, and then is proved right at the end?
Who?
That's Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, I read the Turner Diaries, and that book was the most boring fucking wish fulfillment bullshit I'd ever read. God, it was dumb. And it was like, oh, it's a dangerous book. No, it's about an idiot. I mean, oh God, oh, nobody appreciates me.
Idiot.
Yeah, and the whole book is nobody appreciates me. Well, welcome to being a teenager. Move out while you know everything.
The Turner Diaries are so dangerous. Yes, it's so dangerous it'll put you to sleep.
Yeah, I read Slaughter. The big problem is I took that TBI and I can't remember a lot of books because I know I read Slaughterhouse-Five, but I don't remember anything about it. But I remember a comic book I read in 1983.
Don't feel bad. I read Slaughterhouse-Five. I know I enjoyed it, but I don't remember a thing about it. So.
It's a pretty easy one to remember. There's not a lot to it.
I just remember being unstuck in time and the ceramics.
It's really about a war vet dealing with this trauma and losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wasn't he present for the bombing of Dresden?
Yeah,
that'll fuck anybody up.
And he was the way that he dealt with it. At the end, if you figure it out, is that he believes aliens are routinely visiting him and telling him stuff and keeping him in a zoo, and he needed a mate, so they gave him this porn star he was lusting after, and it's very it's an autobiographical story for Vonnegut.
I remember Fahrenheit. I remember Fahrenheit 451, and what a lot of people don't realize is you can always tell who's read the synopsis and who's read the book, because the majority of people don't know that the book ends with him on a Greyhound bus leaving the city, and in the background there's an atomic bomb going off. Because
I am shocked at how many people miss that, even if they read it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally the last paragraph.
Yeah.
But
that was my reaction. Did he just nuke the city? Shit, the city just got nuked.
I actually
the city got nuked.
I had read it wrong. So.
Well, he kept talking about bombers flying over the house constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was such a big deal. These people were memorizing the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked at I tried looking, I spent 2 days looking up press releases. And, everybody's got advice how to write them, and it's all the same. And it's got the one thing I hate. Be yourself. No, you don't. I don't want to be myself.
I'm
What do I
gonna be
show up?
You're not being yourself. You're being you're being a showman. You're
Yeah.
being Uncle Milty. You're being
Yeah.
you're selling something.
Do I
It's
show up at his office drunk with 2 strippers and the cops chasing me?
I've watched other writers operate when they're pitching themselves,
Mhm.
and I swear to fucking God, it's like a used car salesman.
It is.
I
It
want to
really is.
avoid that.
That's how I feel when I'm doing it. It is.
Well, yeah, but you got tits, so I mean,
Oh.
people want to listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. But my tits don't come through in an email.
True.
No.
Well,
But
that's
at
why
the
they made
table it
cameras.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I spent all this time. I'm looking. I'm like, okay, it's like, okay. I tried like 4 different, get an attention grabbing headline. I suppose a dickhead read this isn't good enough. I mean, back when I did tabletop RPGs, I could literally send it to one of the tabletop RPG zines with, "Hey, fuckhead, read this for me," and they would literally read it. And sometimes they even put the "Hey, fuckhead, read this" in the article.
That's great.
That was back when it was all rough and tumble with knives.
And plus, you were the dickhead.
And I was the drunken dickhead of Die 20. That was me and Anthony Valterra.
Well, since you're on volume 10, is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay, good. Now Ishii, again, he's better at writing these than I am, but I know when I'm pitching verbally, I'll bring about how, at least one, if not 2 beloved characters are back. Here's this latest book. This is a long-standing series that's a bestseller. Then give a brief synopsis for somebody who has no fucking clue who you are or what the story is about. I'll give like a paragraph, maybe 2 descriptor of why they should care. And then, especially because you have so many books, use a pull quote or 2 from somebody. It can even be from Amazon if you don't have anything readily available. But if you've got pull quotes, throw that in there, and then this is how people can get it. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Well, yes, that's the basic format.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these days it's a little harder because they fucking want you to write the article for them.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I will tell you, I've got a selling point that none of the other series have.
Yeah?
The rough draft is basically done. I'm 30 chapters out.
And that is I'm going to say for press releases, it's telling people about the immediacy. And then if you get interviews, that's something to bring up in the interview to say, no, this is long-standing. You're not, like you mentioned, you're not going to George Martin, people.
No.
You have a plan, you have an ending, and this is how far out you have it written.
Well, I was talking to somebody, and they told me that 19 out of 20 series don't get finished on Amazon.
Yeah. That's typical. In fact, a lot of writers will flat out say if the first book doesn't sell, abandon it.
Mm-hmm.
That's common advice I see in books. I don't know how I feel about that.
Dragon Riders of Pern, the original book, sold like shit.
Yeah.
She was just able to twist the arms. Lots of stuff sold badly on the first book. It's what it is? It's the instant gratification problem. It really is. It's I have to have everything right now. I have to become the next J.K. Rowling, or it's just not worth writing. I wrote 2 books of this series and I only made $1,000 a month for 6 months. It's not worth continuing. You made as much as a minimum wage job.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not wanting sleeper hits or for you to build up a following. They want it all like right this very second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ishii.
Well, here's a hook. I've already a slug line and a hook. We'll see. Read it.
Okay.
Make it dramatic.
In the post scarce. Oh, sorry. Let me get
Project.
to
Dun, dun, dun.
project here. In the post-scarcity future, there's a lot of fun to be had. Dangerous fun. Behold humanity. 3 years
After, sorry.
3 years after publication of the runaway best-selling space opera Behold Humanity, May We Come In, author Ralph Bloodthorn has released the 10th book in this Behold Humanity series.
Yeah, let's make it the series.
In his series, yes. There we go. Ishii wrote this like
right now.
Yeah, that's cool. Look, I have no room to talk about stream of consciousness writing. Okay, I wrote almost 3,000 words in a fugue state.
Oh, if you don't like the hook, we can do a different one.
No. It's hey, you know what? I don't know how to do this, and you're the expert at it. And if there's one thing I've always done is defer to actual experts.
Well, yeah, but if there's anything that you want tweaked or you want pushed, definitely, it's important.
Honestly, I think what I'm going to do,
Yes.
just for the fuck of it, because why the hell not? I'm ambitious.
Yes.
I'm going to write the press release, and I'll use the notes from this interview.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think I'm just going to transcribe the interview and send it to Bleeding Fool as an article. Just say here.
Chris would like that.
Yeah, there. We'll have an article. Done.
You see, this. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
One of the weird things is my wife has had to walk me through having any kind of notoriety, because all my life I have tried to avoid attention. You got an abusive mother that fractures her skull, you learn to avoid attention really quick. In the military, you don't want to get fucking terrorists, or you don't want to. Okay, you want to avoid. If the enemy can see, if your enemy can see you, so can the sergeant. So you want to avoid attention. And I worked with a lot of top secret stuff, which meant avoiding attention. And when I got out, I just wanted to keep my head down and work. So until I got into RPGs, it was avoid attention, avoid bringing any attention to myself. And to an extent, I'm still like that. I mean, when you offered to interview me, I paced back and forth for like 3 days trying to decide if I wanted to do it.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
So it was actually kind of a relief to come on here and realize this was a no bullshit show where we just talked.
Yes. Absolutely. Because, I mean, it's one, I could sit around with you guys and BS all day, and the audience is listening. I know that's cool. It's like BSing at a party. Everybody at the party can hear you. But this is good. If Bleeding Cool's got a readership in the millions? I mean, shit. This is exactly the kind of stuff I avoid.
Well, fortunately, Ralph Bloodthorn is a character, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my wife's over here rubbing my back and telling me it's going to be okay. This was going to happen sooner or later if you kept this up.
Well, I mean,
that's like everybody asks me, "Oh, you've had bestsellers. How has it changed your life?" I'm not skipping the water bill to pay the gas bill.
Well, see, that's what I like about you. It isn't really it's not why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's nice. I don't have to work shitty jobs anymore. That's nice. But, I do it because, what's funny is people still tell me that it's the big thing they look forward to in their day is coming home from work and seeing there's another chapter sitting there. Which is both, God, I have had people during COVID and afterwards, I had people message me on Reddit telling me that me writing this and telling everybody stay strong, we can make it, the Friday safety briefings, the telling everybody we can do this and giving them something to look forward to is the only thing that kept them putting a gun in their mouth in isolation. And it was just like, fuck, I can't stop writing. I can't stop.
Well, I think I've got an angle, and I think I finally figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
The 9 muses from Greek mythology, and for those of you, please, I really hope you know what the muses are.
Mm-hmm.
That where inspiration and ideas come from.
Xanadu, right?
Shut up. if you're a Zoomer and they didn't teach you this in school, the muses were like they were spirits, not necessarily goddesses.
No, they're not goddesses.
That brought inspiration to writers and artists and people who created. That's
Mhm.
where inspiration came, as a muse began to whisper to you. But I found out something in a little research. All the muses are daughters of Zeus,
Mhm.
Yes.
god of lightning. And
God
the
of lightning.
struck.
Oh
I
man,
think there's a connection there.
Well, yeah.
that's like the cops talk to my wife because they're like, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, no, I'm good, I'm fine. No,
Yeah,
the
what
cops are over
did
there
you say
talking.
after you got hit by lightning?
The first thing I said was, "What was that?" And then because
Oh.
it blew out the power, and the neighbor called the cops. And my one neighbor came over and he's like, "Hey, I've got one of these Apple Watches. I want you to put it on." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Because it looks like you've been tweaking for about 4 days."
Oh, gee.
And my heart rate was up at like 190. And I had to take off my shirt and I had the little lines. And those,
Oh.
those fade.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they fade away. Yeah, you don't get to keep them, which sucks because they were kind of cool.
Yeah,
And
they are kind of cool. I thought it was permanent tattooing.
no, at least it wasn't for me. And
Oh.
the VA said that's normal to go away after a couple months. And then where my metal implants were, I had burn surface.
Oh.
Ow. Now, are we
Ow,
talking
ow,
like
ow.
joint replacements and stuff?
Basically stuff to hold on the tendons, stuff to fixators, stuff like that.
Okay, so nothing with batteries in it.
Oh.
No, oh God, no. No, then I would have went to the hospital.
I always wondered about people with pacemakers if they blew up.
Ugh.
I think they just die.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart rate was really elevated. I was like, no, as long as he's walking around waving his arms and rambling to himself, he's okay.
Well, we need to actually give
Jesus.
Janelle a call now for reasons we'll tell you off the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we have enough here. And this was a fun impromptu show.
Okay.
Is there any other questions you have?
Well, did you have any? Was there anything about the writing process for press releases or just promotions in general? Did you have any questions about it?
I don't know about any of it because I never did any self-promotion except for like I posted on message boards, and I don't do that anymore. If I go into a message board now, I have to sign up, and my first post would be like, "Hey, come buy my book," and they would rightfully ban me for that. So yeah, I don't do. When it comes to self-promotion, I have no idea. I mean, all I know is just keep writing.
Which is really the most important part.
All right. Well, good night, everyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Stay
stuff.
safe.
Yep. Don't step on any dicks.